With every day that passes, we are constantly being reminded that Corbyn has and will be on the right side of history. We saw Corbyn, for those that don't know, the left wing, I mean, not even far left, it's just a social democrat, a old classical Labour kind of politician who supported and understood that the working class is necessary to maintain an economy that works for everyone, and also understand that we must work towards an equal society, otherwise the shit will hit the fan and it will disintegrate. And the right wing knows this to some degree. This is why they need to push these right wing culture wars. They need to fight these anti-immigration battles, and really, if they were to tax the appropriate, higher higher earners of society, then we could actually pay for the things that are necessary. Because these super rich, individuals in society, the top 1%, even 0.1% of society, they rely on an infrastructure that we pay for. They rely on the masses to pay for this infrastructure. In fact, proportional to the money they make, they pay pennies compared to the taxes that the everyday working class person pays. So quite clearly, Corbyn has been on the right side of history on this, but he's also been on the right side of history when it's come to working for a more equitable society, but also a society or a government that supports the human rights of Palestinians. Somebody who's, let's say, not necessarily anti-Zionist, but non-Zionist, doesn't necessarily support Israel as neoliberal and right-wing governments have done so. This is in counter, in a contradiction, is a complete. This is contrary to the way that Keir Starmer had been running his government. Well, Keir Starmer is basically the symptom, not the cause, because of course Keir Starmer is the latest in a long line of neoliberal, so-called third-way politicians who have simply been supporting the status quo, supporting measures that support the super rich, but doing so within with the facade of being a progressive or liberal. But progressive except Palestine, obviously. Whilst, yes, Keir Starmer was not nearly as bad as the Conservatives or Reform Party, which are growing in popularity because Keir Starmer is shown to be somebody with no backbone, Keir Starmer still has the skeletons of history of his past in supporting Peter Mandelson to be the UK ambassador to the US. Now, why is this important? Because Peter Mandelson was implicated and is found to be connected to with Jeffrey Epstein and sharing government secrets to Jeffrey Epstein whilst participating in UK government board meetings. You can't make this stuff up. It just goes to show that the Blairites, the new Labour kind of party, is morally bankrupt. It is completely without any consideration for human rights, no consideration for the rights of the people of the country that they pretend to care about, and they are just as guilty, if not sometimes more guilty, than the right wing, because of course, at least the right wing, it's very clear where they stand on moral issues. They don't pretend to be morally superior in the same way that a virtue signaling liberal does, because a virtue signaling liberal will always pretend to be better than everyone else, morally superior, without actually acting morally superior. As we can see from Peter Mandelson, the backbone of the new Liberal Labour Party, also found out to be a best friend of Jeffrey Epstein, and been in constant contact with Jeffrey Epstein even after Jeffrey Epstein was doing time in prison for pedophilia. this is the kind of monsters in the Labour Party, new Labour Party, that we're dealing with. And Keir Starmer lied, and it's clear to me that he's trying to save his career, because there are people who don't like Keir Starmer in the establishment, don't like Keir Starmer that he's taking a stand against Trump, for example, in not offering bases to the US for its military, or its shooting or missiles towards Iran. This is one of the only things that Keir Starmer has done, has put his foot right on. Despite that, Keir Starmer still, and because of this, Keir Starmer has a lot of enemies within the establishment. The same establishment which has led us to the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, the same establishment that's led to Peter Mandelson. But there are also those in the establishment who have not found out to be, who are working in a shadow, behind the scenes, and obviously playing politics like it's chess. And it seems to be the case that there are people out there who want to see Keir Starmer gone because he's not right wing enough. And so they're going to use Peter Mandelson against him. Now, this is not a defense against Keir Starmer, because he quite clearly has a connection to Peter Mandelson, and still, despite failing vetting process, he put Peter Mandelson in a position of power within the UK government, and that is a shame. And also goes to show that Jeremy Corbyn, despite the media smears against him, the lies, the duplicity, the disingenuous often these people, who are attacking Jeremy Corbyn, are doing so at the behest or in support of the Zionist state, or at the behest or support of the billionaire class that don't want to increase their taxes, to support the working class, support the country in which they pretend to care about. They're simply attacking him for having a moral spine, which the current establishment, the current Labour Party, which despite its name, is not working on behalf of the working class, and that's where we are. At least we can say that the people who were very defiant, were very vociferous in their anger and hatred towards Jeremy Corbyn, were found out to be the pedophiles, or pedophile adjacent, or pedophile supporters like Peter Mandelson, and we can be rest assured that to have a conscience, to do the right thing, may be the best in the long run. Who knows what's to come in the future? But it should be very clear to us that those people who aren't prioritizing the working class, who aren't prioritizing the humanity of the Palestinians, their priorities might be not in the best interests of the people of the country that they purport to support and work on behalf of. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. That'd be very much appreciated. Thank you.